Okay, Craig, thanks for showing me how to use a micrometer. Actually, I had a little bit easier time with that than I did with the calipers. In an earlier discussion, you and I were talking, and you said that there's more to precision hand tools than simply learning how to measure with them. There's also kind of the care and feeding.
Correct.
Tell me what you're talking about in terms of the micrometers.
This measuring surface is called the anvil, and the opposite surface is called the spindle. It spins when you rotate it. This area here is called the thimble, and that's what one uses to rotate in or out. And this is a locking knob that will lock the spindle from moving. I can turn it and yet it stays still. When it's unlocked, as soon as I turn it, everything moves. This can be used similar to the hold button when you're measuring in a blind area. You can lock it down, remove it, and still have your reading. The way they're handled, the way they're used, and the way they're stored will all affect their accuracy and how long they're going to stay that accurate. When stored, we never store the anvils and spindles closed. Any dirt in between, any corrosion, any moisture can build up. It's always better to leave them open a little bit. You don't have to worry about them moving. They're not going to move in their box, which is another great point. They always should be stored in their box. There's a well-known university that their protocol for calipers are, the calipers are in your hands or they're in a closed box, no in between. And the rule they have is, should they find you doing otherwise, they'll replace your calipers with a yardstick.
Now, when we talk about storing micrometers, the same is true with the calipers. Store them with.
Correct. The different parts of the caliper. These are the measuring jaws. These are called the OD or the straight jaws. This is the fixed jaw. This is the movable jaw. This one stays still. This one moves. Same thing on the ID or the pointed jaws. ID meaning inner diameter, OD meaning outer diameter. You have a fixed jaw and a movable jaw. This is the depth rod, and this is the measuring surface, which also has to be kept very clean. As the caliper is open or shut, the depth rod goes in or out, and this is also a measuring surface at the back end. Now, this caliper may not be set up for step, but a lot of them are, where this will be a precision machine surface, as will this, and you can measure touching on one end and measuring to the other. So those are the basic measuring surfaces of the caliper. This is the dial and the needle. This is called the carriage lock. It locks the carriage, which moves. This is a lock screw for the dial. Once it's zeroed, you leave it alone. But should you have to move it, you can rotate this and take it off of zero. This is called the thumb screw, and it also is on some of these, it's on a clutch mechanism where when you get to the right tension, it'll release. We store them either open just a little bit, or sometimes we'll take a very precision, like a Kim wipe or a towel of sorts, and put it on there. A lot of times we'll just snug the carriage down till it won't move from rattling. But there's also some other issues. With digital, a lot of these do not have off switches. How they're turned off is you lock the spindle. This prevents the spindle from turning when it's closed. And that also will signal the battery to go to sleep. Should they not be locked like this in a cabinet, every time that cabinet door is opened and shut, the display comes back to life and your battery burns out pretty quickly. Okay. You'll find that in the instructions for the micrometers will say to lock the spindle before storage. Always clean them off after you've used them. Clean tools are happy tools.
Okay. And that's because grime can build up on the contacting surfaces?
Correct. There's a number of issues. It can affect your measurement, it can degrade the tool, it could transfer and contaminate another part. Eventually, even the electronics are affected by enough oil and coolant.
All right, well, thanks, Craig.
You're welcome.
Three, two, one, fire.